Now, social. It's an interesting area to me, and I suspect to a lot of us. A couple of aspects about social when it comes to CRM. And the first one is just the impact of the whole social UI metaphor. The profile, the Facebook page, the wall, the timeline, the status update. That definitely the UI design is definitely going to bleed over into productivity apps, and we've started to see that in Salesforce and Dynamic CRM and other applications. And we'll talk a little bit about that. The UI bit in CRM is activity feeds for that. Look at that. Probably the more important one, the second point. Um, the way I like to think of it, it's becoming more and more obvious that the data that you store in your CRM, whatever it is, about your customers and potential customers is usually not the best available data. The best available data is on somebody's web page, the profile on their web page or their LinkedIn profile. So the question is, if your customers have good data up to date out there in the social um, media sites that they use, how do we hook that up with our CRM? So specifically tying that back to dynamic CRM features, you can make a pretty good argument. Dynamic CRM really already is social, not because of Microsoft, but mainly because of third-party solutions. So there's really great add-ins and solutions from companies like Broadlook and Inside View, and certainly Click Dimensions. Although 2 years ago, it's email marketing, but it really is social because the way it hooks into Click Dimensions does have some built-in hooks to things like LinkedIn and that sort of thing. But I'm going to show you Inside View and a couple and activity feeds in a minute. So we'll look at the example of how these are coming in. Now, the announcements at Convergence were about, the interesting things in this regard were about social additions to the core feature set. So enhancements to activity feeds. That's going to be part of the next release. And then this next one, addition of feed for external communities, I don't think that's going to be in the Q2. I believe that's more the Q4 time frame. So how do you put a feed out there analogous to activity feeds, but to see what's going on in Twitter or Facebook, things like that. There is going to be a LinkedIn solution available in the marketplace from Microsoft in the R8 timeframe. So this is the Q2 2012. And I say that because a solution in the marketplace, it could come out at any time. It's going to be in that time frame, but it's not necessarily part of the core feature set. Inside View integration, apparently, this was the announcement at Convergence anyway, is that will be available in the core feature set in the same time frame. Futures, things like social analytics, which this is a Microsoft product, or Microsoft's, it's a Microsoft Labs um, product. It consists of a client app, and there's an API that basically you can use to write applications that listen to social streams like Twitter and LinkedIn and things like that. That's a little bit further off, but I've got a link that discusses that some of you may be interested in. And what I want to show you here in the demo is how Inside View and activity feeds work, just because these are probably this is sort of low-hanging fruit stuff for social, and you're going to see some things in the R8 timeframe that has to do with these. So let me jump out to my deck here. But before I do that, I got another poll for you here, just to see, just to keep you awake out there. Is anybody using activity feeds? Activity feeds is the wall, the post come to Dynamic CRM. This was in the November 2011 service update. I'll give you a peek at this in a minute. I think some of the things that are coming in the Q2 2012 release in a month or so are going to make this a lot more useful. I don't use this much, and I'll show you why in a minute, but this is soon going to be much more useful. Interesting, thank you. Let's go back out to my CRM here. And let me show you what if you ever wondered what this what's new thing is, and this is effectively the wall, is your posts. You have a few more characters I'm not sure. It's like 160, maybe 180. You can do slightly more than 140 characters anyway with these things. You can post status updates, but you can kind of tell from what's going on with these. I've got something that's automatically posting when events happen. So not only can you just type things, but you can also have event-driven posting, which is kind of interesting. Now, the problem with activity feeds as they are now is that they are effectively an all or nothing proposition. And you can see it here. I'm going to go to the activity feeds configurations. And these are referred to as post configurations. And if I open up this opportunity post configurations, you can kind of see, even if you haven't worked with this much, some room to look at that, you can kind of tell, okay, here are all the different events that we could use to drive posts out to that wall. Notice I've got them all inactive. So new opportunity for an account, or a new opportunity for a contact, or if the probability changes, or if there's a new competitor or whatever. Only one of these are active for me. And the reason that I don't like these things all being active is that in the first release of activity feeds, this was essentially a shotgun approach. Everybody that could see any posts would see every post for all these things that are active. It's because posts, it turns out, they're organization-owned entities. So you can either see none or see them all. And if you go to the wall, your what's new wall here, and you basically see every time a probability changes for every opportunity record in your organization, a little bit too much information becomes somewhat less useful. One of the things that's going to happen in the Q2 release, I think, to make this much more useful, is you'll be able to filter these things. So just the way you can have a view for when you navigate to opportunities and you select a view and just see the opportunities you want to see, well, you'll be able to do the same thing here. So that's going to be, I think that will make, for me at least, these much more useful from an organizational standpoint. Right now, the only real way to target these is with a workflow. You can actually have a workflow, an automatic workflow can create a follow for you. So you can create a follow on the fly if some record meets certain criteria, and then when you create a post, it will appear on the wall of only the people who follow that record. So you can target, but it's fair amount of work, and there's some problems with it. But anyway, so this is going to be much more useful in the next release. I predict a lot of people are going to start using those. But what I want to look at now, let's look at Inside View. And I mentioned that Inside View and LinkedIn are both going to have integrations available in the Q2 2012 timeframe. And let me show you a way that I use Inside View. This is a great tool. Inside View and Click Dimensions, probably the two tools that I use the most. And I've been using Inside View for a few years now, and it's definitely one of those tools that for me has stood the test of time. It becomes more useful, and you use it more the more you get to know it. And what it does is it's a plug-in, not in the technical sense of that term. It's an iframe integration. So on the lead, the contact, and the account record types, you can surface this. Here's this Inside View integration. And what it's doing is it's checking the information on this lead. It sees what it can find in its databases out there, not in my CRM, but out on the internet in various places. It shows me the sources down here. And I'm not going to go into the guts of Inside View right now, but it aggregates up a whole bunch of different sources out there, and it shows me all this information. And if I choose Sync here, what I can do is you can kind of tell what's going on even if you haven't seen this before. Here's what I currently have in my dynamic CRM record, and here's what Inside View found out there. Here are the different sources that it uses to get this information. So if I check that, and check update lead, boom, I'm done. Now I've really enriched the data that's on this lead record, and when I qualify this lead record and turn it into a contact and all that sort of thing, then I just get all that information. Now, I happen to know Polyprocessing is a customer of ours, and by the way, if you're ever in Monroe, Louisiana, I encourage you to stop in and see the good folks at Polyprocessing. They make some of the best polypropylene tanks in the business. I understand they're the Cadillac of polypropylene tanks, but But now I've got this information here, so if I wanted to convert this, if I wanted to qualify the lead in the normal course of event, I do this a lot, I'll convert it to a contact and to an account, and then it takes all that information and then brings it over to those records, and now I've got some really nice information behind my records that I didn't have to go out and do much research for. There's other tools that do a great job with this too. If you haven't, if this kind of the social CRM, the sales intelligence piece of this is interesting to you, I encourage you to look at Inside View. Broad Look is a great tool. It doesn't quite do the real-time syncing with CRM records that Inside View does, but the quality of the information that you get back from a Broad Look search, it's a more structured process, but I think the quality of the information is often greater than or equal to that you get with Inside View. Inside View, the integration, I think, is the most elegant. So what we're going to see in the marketplace is a solution that has the, let's jump back to the deck for a minute just to put this in perspective now. So the LinkedIn solution, that's going to be an add-on solution. That will be in the marketplace. But what was announced at Convergence is that Inside View integration, that's going to be in the core feature set. Now my guess is Inside View has a free add-in. You can use this now. Go to their site and download it. But it doesn't give you the syncing. What you pay for with Inside View is that syncing, the subscription database, effectively. So you can bring the information into your CRM. But anyway, so we'll see lots of development on the social front in the coming months. Okay, CRM Anywhere, Q2 2012 service update. The title, CRM Anywhere, right? It's probably a pretty good name for this release because there's a couple of really important. This is the sort of the mobility story. Finally, we get multiple browser support, and we're going to get a rich mobile experience. Not that we haven't had these in the past, but the way that we'll be able to get this now, that is directly from Microsoft, that's what's new here. So let's talk about browsers first. This is a good story. Finally, the official line on browsers won't be that Dynamic CRM supports any browser, pause, as long as it's Internet Explorer 6 or greater, right? So now it actually will be any browser. So Internet Explorer, Firefox, Chrome, Safari will all be supported on browsers. This will be part of the core platform, and there's no licensing issues here. So that's browser support. That's good. Mobile, different story. Now, what's new here is that the cloud-based subscription model will be available directly from Microsoft, and we're not talking about Mobile Express anymore. We're talking about sort of a rich native app client that leverages device-specific functionality for these popular devices here. And it's going to, interestingly, it's going to be available both online, not just online, but also on-prem customers will be able to get this via subscription model. So we're going to have support for Windows Phone, not surprisingly, iPhone, iOS, Android, BlackBerry, and the iPad. Getting a lot of requests for that. I have a lot of customers, I think, that are going to be very happy with the functionality here. Now, as far as deployment options, how do you get this? This was a topic that I originally posted a not very crisp articulation of this, and I was corrected by Barry Givens, and I recently posted his correction on the article where I talked about this. But basically, the way this is going to work is there will be a cloud-based subscription service that is going to be powered by some technology Microsoft's licensing from CWR Mobility, one of my favorite Dutch CRM mobility companies, and it's going to be available to customers who you do have to have an internet accessible dynamic CRM. So that's going to be either online partner hosted, or you've installed and configured the internet facing deployment for on-premise. But even if you're on-premise, you will be able to license the subscription service from Microsoft for a $30 per month per user additional fee. So if you're online, you're already paying $44 a month. add 30, so it'd be 74 bucks a month per user to use the standard UI, Outlook, and the web client plus 3 mobile devices. So that's, they believe, the constraint there on the mobility side. Option 2, this is the more traditional one. This is your on-premise deployment where you purchase and install the mobile solution on your IT assets, and that's going to be available from CWR, 10 digits, Resco, and these are the 3 big mobility solution providers for Dynamics CRM, but there are others. And in a minute, I'll show you 10 digits, how that looks. But before we demo that, I've got another little poll for you. I'm curious to see how important this is for people. This is one of those feature areas that has been in perpetual state of just about mainstream, seems like, for the last 2 or 3 years. Obviously more important for some customers than for others, but it's definitely something that I've started to, it bubbles up more frequently than it used to, and it's becoming, more important. And certainly, it's with mobility, the trend is only going in one way. It's not like we're gonna go back anytime soon. I wouldn't expect. So let's see. Currently provide, plan to. So it looks like the bulk of us are in that kind of the 6 to 12 months time frame. And I think if you're interested, I think one of the constraints for mobile, certainly with dynamic CRMs, it's been, it's relatively difficult to deploy, and I think being able to get it from Microsoft is definitely going to make it a lot easier. So what I want to do is give you a quick glimpse of this and just kind of give you a couple of thoughts. I don't have too much. Mobile is one of those things. It's not necessarily the easiest thing to demo, but let me show you what you can do with this. Oh, sorry, I got to share out, don't I? I'm going to share out my desktop, and notice the browser that I'm in here. This is Chrome. And the interesting thing about Chrome is that I've got 10 digits deployed. This is the 10 digits mobile solution for Dynamics CRM. 10 digits is one of those 3 companies I mentioned, CWR and Resco being the other 2. And they all have good mobile experiences. 10 digits, CWR, Resco all have native client applications for those leading devices. And the interesting thing about 10 digits is that their mobile client, my profile, and I'll show you how this looks on the server in a minute, but my profile says that I'm configured for an iPhone. Recently, at long last, switched back from the Droid to the iPhone, so I've got a nice iPhone now. And my mobile experience for 10 digits is configured for the iOS, and 10 digits has a native client application. But if you use Chrome and you browse to the mobile URL, notice this is different from my production mageniumsolutions.crm.dynamics.com URL, but this is the mobile experience. And if you use Chrome, Chrome will do a pretty good job of emulating the device that you're configured for. So this is kind of a cool way. It's not the easiest thing to give a demo. What am I going to do? Get my iPhone out and hold it up against the camera on my HP? I don't know about that. But so this is the mobile experience, and the main thing here is what? Well, the mobile UI is going to be different. So if you deploy one of these things, what you really need to do is you find yourself having to customize the user experience in kind of an interesting way. You're dialing it back, right? Because all the things, the rich kind of forms experience and tabs and all the JavaScript that you've got on your forms and CRM and all that other stuff, that doesn't typically play that well. You don't want the same rich experience. You need kind of a slim down. You want fewer views and fewer fields on the form and things like that. So this is effectively what the experience is like on the iPhone client. Say if I'm searching for accounts and I click, let's just search active accounts. It's going to go find a bunch of Microsoft account records that are in my CRM, brings them back. So I got Dynamics, Microsoft Learning, Washington, D.C. office. If I go to this Microsoft Corporate, the challenge with the mobile UI from a customizer standpoint is interesting because you're customizing it, you're making it simpler. You're customizing it down. So this is kind of a typical view of what the account form might look like. And again, these are all fully functional. Go back in here again. One of the things that I like the best about this when I'm using this on my real mobile device is, I navigate to a contact record and you click the number and you call it. Okay. The iPhone is a little bit harder to develop for, and I don't believe any of the those leading providers, 10-digit CWR or Resco, have, for example, activity tracking. You can touch a number and call it, but I don't think on the iPhone you can track that as an activity. But I believe with some of the other apps that they have their smart client apps for those other platforms can do that sort of thing. But you can certainly interact with the data. And this is not Mobile Express. This is full read write, and you can do all kinds of things with this. For me, the sweet spot with mobile, I've been using it a lot more lately, is things like tasks or work items. We track our hourly time against projects with this work items concept. And for me, just to be able to, it's a small, it's kind of just a little function point, right? It's just, how much time did you spend doing what, when? And it's the sort of thing that if you don't enter it in real time, a lot of times you'll forget. So the ability to do that from my iPhone, as opposed to fleshing out all the details on an account, which is going to be a more complicated form anyway. So it's really, I think, for me, it's activity management, and in particular, because it makes it easier, sort of not to forget what you did. But anyway, that mobile experience is good. It's getting better, and it's going to be a lot easier to consume it. From the standpoint of the configurator, if that's a word, or the person who does the back end stuff, let me just give you a glimpse of what that looks like. And again, the basic, I'm going to sign into the 10 digits console. And these basic concepts, while they differ in the particulars, are pretty similar from one of these providers to the other. So if I'm playing the role now of the person that's doing the customizations of this, I want to go and set up the user devices. So I would say add a new user device, and when I add a user device, I specify, okay, what platform is it for? If it's for iPhone, I can specify whether or not is it a native client app, or do they just want browser access? I'm not going to do this right now, but you kind of get a feel for it. So I've got a number of users configured on the 10 digits solution. Then what I can do is create different profiles. These are pretty similar constructs that all the different vendors have. So maybe one profile has a lot of custom entities in it for the service people, cases, contracts, things like that, where another profile might have just all the stuff that the sales folks need when they're out there. And so then what I would do is go for these people, I would specify which profile they get. You can kind of see that here. They all have customization capabilities. So if I did want to customize the mobile experience for that account record type, I bring this up, open the default account customization, and then I can start making changes here. So I can start, again, maybe getting rid of some of those views, that sort of profusion of views that I had on the mobile client might not be what I want. I could change the attributes of lists. I could change the icons. I could change the form. This is probably the most obvious place to see it. Maybe you don't need all this information. So that's just kind of a little bit on the background. Then when you publish those changes, the next time somebody goes to the mobile client and accesses the site, the 10 digits infrastructure will push down the metadata so that forms refresh and things like that, or you can schedule jobs to publish those things. So again, this is not, I don't have enough time to go through this in detail, but you get the idea. There's going to be some sort of a server component where people who are customizing and maintaining the mobile experience will interact with the information and determine what it is that users see out there. So we will see a lot more on that in the short term. Now,